Here in Washington, there are lots of experts, very smart people with specialized knowledge who are convinced that they, through central planning, you might call it, can run our lives better than we could left on our own. Yet again and again, the government experts have failed. They make things worse. Look what this department, the Department of the Interior, has done.
You've heard about the catastrophic forest fires over the past few years. Some people call them natural disasters. But many say these fires are not natural. In fact, most of the catastrophic fires out west were government-caused fires, the result of decades of bad government policy or carelessness, like at Los Alamos or this fire in Lewiston, California, where the Department of the Interior lit a fire to try to get rid of a weed, this thistle. They set the fire despite weather reports saying it would be windy. It was windy. 24 people lost their homes. Dottie Lochler was one.
Some idiot lit a fire when the wind was blowing. I think it's a criminal act.
The man from the Interior Department's a criminal?
He's untouchable. That was the attitude, the arrogance. Because I asked him, I says, you know, had I got caught burning trash today, it would have been about a $2,000 fine. And this little guy looked me right dead in the eye and he says, you're just a homeowner. I'm a professional.
The fire not only destroyed homes, it failed even to eliminate the thistle, which grew back stronger than before. Government mismanagement of forests has led to fires all over the West. There's a lot of privately owned land here, too, but it's better managed. The catastrophic fires were on government land.
And if the Interior Department does a bad job managing land, you ought to see what happens when they try to manage people. Often, the more the government helps, the worse things get. Look at what they did to the first Americans.
He put us in a little cage here, call it reservation.
Chief Red Cloud's the leader of the Lakota Sioux tribe of Pine Ridge, South Dakota. The Sioux have been herded and controlled by the government for over 100 years. The result? This is now the poorest county in America. Unemployment's about 80%. People live on government checks.
Every month they receive some type of handout from the federal government. So our people become lazy and they don't want to work.
With nothing to do, many just drink.
I've been under the supervision of the federal government for a long time. You know?
They messed us up, man. They messed us, man.
17-year-old Russell Blacksmith would like to help his tribe improve their lives. He wants to be chief someday, but he's not optimistic.
The federal government turned us into a concentration camp. We sit back and just live off of government handout. It's been a trap. We need to stand on our own 2 feet.
We have the least life expectancy, less than Guatemala, less than Bolivia, Brazil. Hardly anyone reaches 65 anymore.
Activist Russell Means blames the Interior Department's Bureau of Indian Affairs, the agency that claims to help Indians by planning their lives.
We cannot make a plan or a decision without the express consent of the Secretary of Interior. We submit anywhere from 2 to 5 year economic plans. Does that sound like the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union and their failed economic plans?
Most of the crimes against the Indians were that of the government. The government goes in and ruins their lives, and it comes up and says, hey, you need us. Come on in. Come on
By
in.
contrast, look what's happened when a tribe managed to get some freedom from government control.
We decided that we're going to have to do something for ourselves.
Philip Martin is chief of the Choctaw tribe. The government put the Choctaw on a reservation in Mississippi, and for years they lived much like the Sioux.
Tuberculosis was rampant. Infant mortality was horrible. Babies were coming into hospitals, not being cared for, and going home and returning and dying in mother's arms.
But then the Choctaw petitioned Congress to give them special concessions that would allow them to try new things without having to go through so much red tape.
For the first time, we're able to make some changes.
Today, 20 years later, they have factories that generate hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. One makes stereo speakers, another wiring for cars, another makes plastic utensils for McDonald's. Every Indian who wants a job has one. They've even hired thousands of non-Indians from off the reservation. They've built their own schools and hospital, and they've built 1,000 new homes.
I think if my grandparents were still living today, they would be so astonished at what all has happened and how much it's changed.
Makes you wonder, how does the Interior Department get away with it? Charged with helping Indians and given tax money to spend billions on them, they created the poorest people in America.
But they still tell the world we're taking care of our poor little Indians.
The Bureau of Indian Affairs can't even keep track of the Indians' money. More than $2 billion of it is unaccounted for.
Yet no one is even reprimanded. No one's indicted. No one's demoted. No one is fired. No one is even named.
Just more billions lost in the bureaucracy. And where might the money be? I wanted to ask then Secretary of the Interior, Bruce Babbitt. He agreed to an interview, and his staff had us set up our camera gear in his conference room. But when Babbitt arrived, he seemed to change his mind.
I'm not sure why I'm here. I mean, you know, another expose. It's all in a day's business, I understand. Okay, well, let's have at it.
Okay.
But before I could ask him anything, he decided he didn't want to talk.
I'm going to fire whoever scheduled this interview.
Why?
Well, what's the name of the show?
We haven't titled it yet. It's probably...
Okay. The government is wasting your money. They are corrupt and incompetent.
Well, I wouldn't say corrupt. I would argue competent.
Yeah, you'd say incompetent. Look, I'm getting less and less interested in doing this interview. I got to tell you, I really am. I'm not sure how I got here, but
well, we told you it was a consumer report on government. Told your staff.
Yeah. Look, I really don't want to do this. No.
And that was that. The interview was over. Now his department wants Congress to give more money to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Should they get it? Should they exist at all?
There's no Bureau of Jewish Affairs. There's no Bureau of Irish Affairs. There's no Bureau of Black or African Affairs.
They sit up there in Washington, D.C., and they legislate laws that affect us, when in fact they don't know what the heck's going on here.
When we return, we'll see if government can build you a house.